My quilt is in tribute and to celebrate a man who's changed my life and brought so much to everyone around him. Bob has been such an important, influential part of my life. He gave me support, love and time when my life collapsed around me. I was always welcome in his house and he let me stay with him when I couldn't cope at home anymore. Our friendship grew over the 5 years until he died. We met through our work and Bob, I soon learned, was an amazing character. He would always be joking, laughing, saying very rude cards just to get me embarrassed and always on the wind up. Bob lived in Brighton and moved there when he was 16 to build a new life for himself, and this is how he always was. Knew what he wanted and just did it. I felt so much admiration for him, and just as he did what he felt was right and just lived life to the full without hurting anyone. When I think of Bob, such wonderful memories fill my mind of him getting up on Sundays, sticking the Barbra Streisand on and cooking a massive breakfast for us all and making the table up out on the patio just so we could enjoy some sunshine. We'd take long walks on the beach, mainly to burn the calories off. And when Bob and Norman first met, I went down to stay the weekend and we went out for a nice meal at the Harvester just outside of Brighton. Well, the first impressions that Norman must have had of Bob and me, especially, must have been awful because we just got a little tiddly and decided that the salad bar needed to be rearranged. Well, this ended in a food fight in the middle of the restaurant. Dessert course ended in us delving into each other's puddings and smothering it on our faces. What a nightmare. But I've never laughed and enjoyed a meal quite as much as that. There are so many more times enjoyed with Bob that no one could ever replace, and this is why I wanted to celebrate as well as carrying on mourning for the loss of him. He was also very talented with his creative cake making. He'd make them for friends, for special occasions, or just to cheer someone up if he knew they were poorly. He was just a people's person. I do know he loved his nephews very much, and he was always talking about them and his family a lot. When we learnt of him having HIV, I left it to him to decide how he wanted to deal with it all. I needed to understand his feelings and not have him worrying about my feelings. He was concerned as to who should know right away, and I couldn't appreciate the trauma of what he now had to deal with. We talked about our feelings, and in true tradition, Bob was calm and positive and just didn't see the point in being angry at anything or anyone. He just got on with being himself. I stood strong and positive with his decision and tried to keep this atmosphere around him while everyone else was distraught. Bob and I talked all the time of how we'd be able to spend more time with each other, take time off, and that anyway, after this first problem, we would be home and we could make the most of the years ahead. We couldn't believe after he found out he had a tumour, and he was in and out of hospital and never could have any more good quality time at home. That's what was so painful for me. Him not only having this disease, but to not be given any time seemed just so bloody unfair. The pictures in my mind of that time can never fade. They're too vivid and horrific to even write about. But we kept the sanity there by laughing and talking. It kept us both going because when I left his side, I could see the pain he was in, and the pain I felt of helplessness was soul-destroying. Within 6 months, it was all over for him. He was given freedom from all that pain I couldn't rid for him. I miss him not being here so much. Since July, I've thought of him every day and how much of a part he's played in my life in those few years. So much has changed, and I just wish this hadn't happened to him. I suppose I can't believe that he's totally gone, because everything that is left within me about him is positive and loving, and I'll never let his spirit die within me, and I hope the spirit will live on in this quilt. We must all learn from a person like Bob. He loved to live and loved to care about others, and his humour always kept everyone around him going. Why can't we all learn to live with each other, not learn to hate? We are losing too many wonderful people to this horrendous disease. Let us hope by celebrating and remembering all our friends and family whom we've lost already with a quilt, we will touch everyone else out there in our fight for our rights to love and live together. Let us hope that the quilt of love is kept forever on memory of these amazing people. I wanted to include something about the quilt I've made. I've made it in different materials and mediums, really to signify how there is so much to a person's life that can never be written or painted. The quilted cat is to bring Bob and Garthy, his ginger cat, together again. His name in blue, as this was his favourite colour. The painting underneath to symbolise his love of the South Downs, where he is now, looking out over the valley and the sea and into Brighton, where his home was for so long and where he's left so many friends and loved ones. Then the postcards, a mixture of him and Woody Woodpecker, because this was his nickname for me. He was always sending me notes, usually very rude cards, just to remind me in bad times that you just can escape reality, even if it's for a second to smile. Dear Bob, this is for you, sweetheart, so I can always come and see you and remember all the good times. I hope you like it, Bob. I can never forget you. Love you. Woody. Claire.